We're headed into the weekend here as we get ready for Memorial Day. It's going to be a great weekend. And we're just a week away from, or a week past, where I talked about last week the most important hour of the day, the first hour of the day. Today, I'm going to make a case that it may have a rival, and it's going to be the last hour of the day. We're going to talk about winning the last hour of the day today here on the Chasing Greatness podcast. Thanks for joining us. This is the podcast where we help you win at work on Mondays, we win at home on Wednesdays, and then today, Friday, we're trying to talk about how do we win at life. And last week, I love that quote that we read to you from, I think the guy's name was Henry Ward Beecher. He said, the first hour of the morning is the rudder of the day. It's like a rudder on a ship. It sort of points us in the right direction. If you didn't have a chance to listen, I hope you'll go back and do that. Lots of people have listened. This has been the most downloads we've had in a week, so thanks for helping us with that. I really would ask you to share with somebody today who's chasing high performance. They're chasing greatness, so to speak. Not just we're trying to be great, we're trying to help other people be great as well. And so I hope you'll share with somebody that you care about and encourage them to win that last hour of the day as well. But we really do believe this is huge. The rudder is not the only part of a boat. There's also, if you get on a boat, you do a little fishing like I did when I was growing up, you'll remember that the anchor is also another important part of a boat. And it's as I think about this idea of the last hour of the day, man, there's some time each day that we get to drop the anchor, we get to stop, and we get to rest. And I hope you are resting. Now, before I jump into a couple of things about the last hour of the day, I ran across a Leonardo da Vinci quote, which I'm not up on Da Vinci. I mean, I've seen some of his work, but I haven't read much of his stuff. But I love this, what he said. He said, a day well spent brings happy sleep. So as we get to that last hour of the day, all the other days in between the first hour and the last hour are important. And that's why I wanted to read you Da Vinci here. It's like, we need to spend our days well. All those other hours are really important. But what happens during the last hour is really what's going to set you up for the next day, I believe. So let's think about it in the context of a runner, and specifically not just let's go out in the neighborhood and run a couple miles, but let's think about a marathon runner. A marathon runner's got 26.2 miles, and the 0.2 matters. I can tell you, after having personally run 8 marathons, I don't do that anymore, but I did 7 fulls and 1 ultra, which was further than a full. And here's what I can tell you. There's a little bit of a parallel here, 24 hours in a day, 26 miles in a marathon. And marathoners, I don't know any marathoners who have dropped out of the race in the last mile of the race. Like, you don't get to the last mile and say, oh, this mile doesn't matter. I just think I'll forfeit the last mile here, stop. And yet, how many of us, we forfeit the last hour of our day to wasted and unfocused activities? Too many leaders I know, they give the best of themselves when the spotlight's on, only to be left with the rest of themselves when perhaps it matters most, when nobody's looking, when the day is winding down. And I think a focused last hour allows you to do a few things here. And so I want to talk about some of those as we think about the last hour. It honestly is a preparation hour for the rest of the night, or a night of rest, if you want to say it that way. You're gonna have an opportunity to sleep. This is not an episode about sleep, but you do need, you need 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night to be healthy, they say. So maybe we'll talk about sleep at some point here, but this is about preparing for sleep. This is about preparing for rest, and there's a few things that can happen during that time. One of those things is, I think we do have a chance to review the day. We have a chance to review the day. Most of us don't review the day. Most of us review what has been going on in our friend's day. We scroll through Instagram, we check our Facebook page, we watch the news. We're looking for, information when maybe that should have happened at some other point during the day, if at all. I'm not sure. Sometimes we miss a lot when we miss the news. I'm not saying don't be informed, but if something major happens, and there's major things happening all the time, somebody's gonna let you know if you need to know about it. And so maybe you do. Again, not a message or an episode on the news, but maybe you just need to have a set 5 minutes a day where you look at some headlines. If that's what you feel like you need to do, you go for it. But if we're not careful, we'll watch news program after news program that is honestly, in some ways, designed to bait you into watching more so they can sell advertisements. I don't want to get off on that rant right now, but there's so much that we can do during that last hour that is not allowing the outside world, to come into our inner world, and I think that's so important for us to think about. It also gives us a chance to not just review the day that we've just had, but to reset for the next day. It gives us a chance to just almost unplug, and sleep gives us this chance to recharge and reset. And I love the fact that we get this fresh opportunity for a new day. So as you think about your particular last hour of the day, are you as focused during that last hour as you are during the first? We talked about last week being focused during that first hour. We said it was the foundation for the day, and preparation, that first hour, is really the key to high performance. And if you remember from last week's episode, if you didn't hear it, I hope you will go back and check it out. But I said if you can't win them all if you don't win the first one. So this first hour is very important. We gave you a way to prep your day from planning and reading and exercise and prayer. If you remember, hope you've been using your little prep routine this last week. But as you think about the last hour, are you as focused during the last hour? And the honest truth for most of us is we're pretty focused during the beginning of the day, but we sort of run out of steam, and we like to wind down and veg out and whatever you want to call it. And there's nothing wrong with winding down, but what you allow to happen during that wind down period, I think, is very important. So if you're going to win at life, this winning the last hour of the day is a massive part of that. Don't lose sight of that. So what do we do? We have these, we're scrolling through endless screens. We mentioned social media coming in. There's irrelevant news sometimes coming in, and we just got our minds cluttered. We've got, again, you could go back and look at, even medically, they talk about we don't need to have all this blue light coming in from our screens the last hour of the day. That actually affects our sleep. It messes with our rest. And so I think this idea of reviewing your day, resetting for the next day, I think another thing we can do is to express some gratitude for the day. As I get to the end of my days, I like to think about not just what happened to review the day, but what am I thankful for? What is it that I really have to be grateful for at the end of the day? You can spend time with the people you love at the end of the day, that last hour, maybe a conversation that rather than, if you're married, you've got to, you're scrolling through your screens, your spouse is scrolling through her screens or his screens, and the next thing you know, you're letting the outside world talk to you, but you're not even talking to the people that you live with, the people that are closest. If you listen on Wednesdays, I always talk about living your life in such a way that the people who know you the best love you the most. I think one of the ways you can do that is just have a conversation before you end your day. Don't let the sun go down, so to speak, on your, what does the Bible say? It says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. And I think having a clean slate in a marriage, or having clean slate with your kids at the end of the day, it's so easy to say something, not come back and clean that up, or make sure that, intent is understood, or sometimes we say things we shouldn't say and we need to apologize for that. There's just a lot of things we can do during that last hour of the day. In fact, if we have things that we need to take responsibility for in a conversation like that, we need to do that is when it happens. Keep a clean slate all the way through the day, not just at the end. But if something comes up at the end of the day, I would really encourage you to, if something comes to mind, go ahead and make that right before you rest. I believe you want to rest with a clear conscience, and that happens through there. So there's lots of things that can happen. I would say it this way: power down when the sun goes down. Power down when the sun goes down. I've heard people talk about a digital sunset. So when the sun goes down, you go screen free at that point. Now that's pushing it to a really massive next level for some of us as we hear that. Or it's like, I can't live without my TV at night, or I can't live without my, my streaming service, or I can't live without my Facebook, whatever. You get to decide what you do. But if you are spending all your downtime, but not powered down, but it's downtime, but it's actually screen time and scroll time, I think you're going to have a really hard time becoming the person that you really can become and having the impact that you can have. So you don't have to give up all that, but what if you gave up some of that? What if you just said the last hour of the day, I'm going to go dark. I'm going to go dark. I like the phrase "go dark at dark." When it gets dark, let's just go ahead and unplug and let's start to prepare for a night of rest. And so reviewing and resetting is a part of that. Ending the day with gratitude is a part of that. And so I'll give you a couple of practical things you can do here and just send you off on your way as you go into the weekend. I want you to think about what happens during the last hour of the day. I think it's really important. So I would say consider getting yourself a journal or a legal pad or whatever, put it beside your bed. And what would happen if you just went to bed early rather than writing it on your pad? I like to take notes on my iPad. But what if I have a legal pad or a journal? Get yourself a little notebook or something. And what if you ended every day and you just jotted down 5 little bullet points of things that you're grateful for at the end of the day? Just test it out. See what happens. You give yourself permission to spend 3 minutes writing down these 5 little things you're grateful for, and I promise you, you're gonna rest better. And you're going to be more refreshed. And as you start to think about the things that you're thankful for, and you even begin to consider how good you have it, I think that's going to really set you up to rest well. So I'll give you some other things that I want you to reflect on here as you go into the weekend. I would ask you to answer the question, what is my ideal last hour routine? I think routine is a very important part of your day. I have routines that happen during the first hour of the day, and I have some routines that I want to happen during the last hour of the day. And my routines are going to be different than your routines. And so I would ask you to decide, again, this idea of choice, make a decision. What do you want your last hour to look like? And don't forfeit that. Again, I think it's easy to just, go into default mode and whatever happens, and I hope I get to bed on time. And next thing you know, I'm not rested the next day, and I've allowed yesterday to affect today. And so having that ideal last hour, what would it look like? That gratitude, list, that conversation, reviewing your day for a moment, reflecting, maybe just some time for quiet. I like to have a book. I can't remember a time that I haven't had a book on my, my bed stand there, my nightstand beside my bed, that I don't. I love to pick that book up and read 3 or 4 pages a night, and to me that's so much better than scrolling through a screen. Now you get to decide, but I would encourage you to get an ideal last hour routine and see what happens for a week. Here's the second thing that you can do besides identifying your last hour routine. I would ask you to think through what changes you need to make to align your life with your last hour, your ideal last hour routine. So you're gonna list out your ideal last hour, but very quickly, if you're like me, you're gonna realize, oh, I want this to be true, but actually this happened a couple of times this week. And so I need to make some changes as I think about it. And I'm guessing you might as well. So what changes do you need to make to align your life with your ideal last hour routine? And then the last question I would ask is, what time do you need to end every day to be at your best? What time do you need to end every day to be at your best? I'm watching these young parents, bunch of young parents around in my life right now, and I'm watching them, and they have routines and bedtimes for their children. And I'm actually asking myself, why do we not have a consistent bedtime as adults? It's like we just kind of, if we're not careful, we'll wing it. We'll go to bed here. This is on, the game's on, all kind of things. And the next thing you know, it's getting really late at night, and and I'm not. You go to bed when you want to go to bed, but I think if you have this consistent set time that you are aspiring to, and then you hold to that, and you back that up 1 hour, and you say, okay, what do I want to happen during this last hour? I'm guessing that some of you could take your life and your leadership to the next level. So if you really want to win at life, I think you do have to win the first hour of the day. I think if you win all the other hours in the middle of the day, you're going to have happy sleep, as Da Vinci said. But I think winning the last hour of the day is what's going to propel you to win the next day. And I'll leave you here with an old Bible verse that says, "This is the day the Lord has made." It's like God makes each day. And it says, "Let us rejoice and be glad in it." It doesn't say, "Let us rejoice and be glad in tomorrow." It doesn't say, "Let us rejoice and be glad in yesterday." There's things, there's reasons you should find joy in your past and things that happened yesterday and things that happened today, but in it. So this is the day you have. What you do with the first hour, I think, is going to propel you to have a really great day. And what you do with the last hour is going to reset your heart and life to rest, to reflect, to be prepared for tomorrow. And who knows, you may get another day tomorrow. And if you do, you'll get to, what does it say? Rejoice. You'll get to hopefully wake up and have joy again. I think you'll find lots of joy available to you if you've not been winning the last hour of your day. I think new joy is on the way for you. So let's define it. Let's don't wing it. Let's make sure we're locked in on what that last hour ought to look like. We go dark after dark. We review and we reset, reflect for the next day, and then we do everything we can to position ourselves to have a heart of gratitude. You got so much to be thankful for. I hope you'll count your blessings every day at the end. Life really is a gift, and I hope you'll find joy in that. So I think if you'll win the last hour of the day, you'll set yourself up for that. All right. Love you guys. I appreciate you listening. I hope you'll share with somebody that you care about and help us continue to grow what we're doing here. Keep chasing greatness. We'll talk to you next week.